The purpose of the military is not to start wars, it's to prevent wars. Of course,
Oh,
that's not how it's been used because the
okay,
whole
but
thing's been co-opted.
then what you're talking about, essentially, the only way for an organization like that to exist is to is a voluntarist. You know what the founding fathers talked about is a militia. And that's the only way. But in its present form, it does not. There's no. There's
Well,
no
I mean, you
real.
talked
There's
about the
no.
mastermind concept.
Yes, I am, and
You,
that's my
and
point. Is
and
that's how.
I believe that is how a military should be used, with a mastermind concept.
Right. Okay. Theoretically, yes. But I'm talking about, again, I'm a realist. I look at what's happening in today's world.
Well,
Anyway,
originally I had this clip. I had this clip prepared originally. Actually, I have two clips. Let's look at this, and
Sure.
then we'll end it after this.
Okay.
I got two clips here that might shed some light on this, and let's look at this one.
Okay.
Doubtless you have seen Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois' comments in the Senate where he said, hey, we should let people who came here illegally join the U.S. military. What does that make you think?
Well, this makes me think back to the COVID crisis and some thoughts that I was developing then about the insanity of throwing highly trained people, in many cases, out of the U.S. military for refusing to take the so-called vaccines. Now, my sense at the time was that likely had the purpose of getting rid of the kinds of people who refuse moral orders.
That's right.
And that it created a much more compliant force. Now, what happens if migrants are given citizenship in exchange for military service in the U.S. military? That seems to create a major hazard, because the perverse incentives for a migrant and the lack of allegiance to fundamental American values means that would be just the kind of force that could be used to impose tyranny on other Americans, because they would have, no history with us that would cause them to think twice.
We've seen this before with the Roman legions. That's exactly my conclusion. Does that sound like a crazy conclusion?
I think we have to stop punishing ourselves for considering things that once seemed crazy. That the pattern of recent history...
I'm sorry, I want to repeat that. I think we have to stop punishing ourselves for considering things that once seemed crazy.
Yep.
Getting that tattoo.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is where we are, and it is... it's causing me to do something that I'm reluctant to do. My training is as a scientist, and scientists have to have a substantial degree of caution and self-skepticism to do the work. But in order even to reach the possibilities that do fully explain what we're seeing, we have to be ready to consider the larger picture.
Well, there's really nothing to say about that. It speaks for itself.
Well, look, you getting rid of people that didn't take the shot. You're getting rid of people who would not follow immoral orders.
Yeah.
Okay. And replacing them, what you have left are people who do follow orders, and replacing them with a group which is even potentially more ruthless in following orders, the immigrants.
I mean, and the only thing theoretically of what you're saying is I can't disagree with anything that he's saying, but the thing is, let's take that even further. Is this to say that there are some people that that have a semblance of conscience in the military?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, that is, but again, look at this logically for me, that still does nothing to discount my other point, because to say that, first of all, the fact is they have maybe, I can't even quantify with a certain percentage of consciousness. They may have had a line that they won't cross, right? But that's not to say that they didn't already cross over other lines to be there in the first place. So my point is still valid.
Well,
It's just to say, because essentially it's to say
the premise of what he's saying.
I know
you're getting rid of people who are not pure order followers for people who are.
Right. And that, but again, that's not to say, why did they refuse to do that? Was it because they knew the risk to themselves and they were willing to not, they were willing to not, the people who refused.
Yeah, that's dealing with the shot, but it's not really dealing with the immigrants. What he's saying is
that's a whole,
the immigrants.
That's a whole separate story.
The immigrants are going to be more likely ruthless order followers because basically that's their ticket to stay here.
Yes, exactly. There's no disputing that, but that has nothing to do with the point of the military itself. That puts it even more to the point of it's a playground for people who are immoral order followers, that they would flourish in an environment like that. So therefore, therefore, logically, it still doesn't.
If it's run by psychopaths, of course,
it still doesn't. Well, it's not only that it's run by psychopaths. The whole thing is decayed to the point where, from an actual,
I'm not saying that it is fully run by psychopaths, but there are quite a lot of psychopaths in there that are running it.
But my point is that if we're to take it that the initial concept of the founding fathers was a voluntary militia, right? A voluntary, well-trained militia that was self-contained and, not bloated in any way, then that still, the United States has gone so far away from that concept with their military forces that the minute they decided to invade a foreign country, which was basically World War I, right? That was basically the first foreign intervention, if I'm not mistaken. All other wars in this country were domestic, really, up till that point. So it was really, again, Woodrow Wilson pushing United States into globalism, essentially, and being the world's policeman. So you have, again, up till that point, the United States was holding to some degree of the initial concept of the founding fathers, to some degree. Again, not saying that it's, again, I don't want to get into how it may have decayed from the initial concept to pre-World War I. That's not the point of what we're talking about. The point is that that's when things really shifted. So in that point, again, there is no, again, we have to look at things historically and we have to ruthlessly analyze this and point to how does it hold to that initial first principle. And that's, again, I can't dispute anything that Weinstein says. It's pretty self-evident. Did you want to play that second clip? Because I don't want to spend too much time since we basically.
Yeah, let's play the second clip while we're at it.
So they knew our military force, was not going to help them with their plan. Years ago, about 3 to 5 years ago, the military put out a survey to our military men and women and asked them, would you be willing to round up American citizens if you were ordered? Would you be willing to shoot an American citizen on U.S. soil if we ordered you to? They asked them all these questions. 87% of the military said hell no. So they knew our force, our military force, was not going to help them with their plan. So that's why they're moving them out of the country, deploying them all over the place so they can't save us. That's also why they're flooding in millions of these foreign military-aged men into the country, because they can't wait to put us in concentration camps.
Okay, that
So yeah, that's
also
more or less kind of along the same line of thought as
it's pretty much
Weinstein.
it's pretty much along the same line of thought as Weinstein. The only thing that I would say again, okay, so 87% said no fucking way. But then what about that 13%? What about those?
Well,
what
yeah.
I'm
I
saying.
mean, you definitely got the people who are just devoid of any type of
Right.
morality.
And again-
you definitely have that.
Right. And again, my point is, again, there's a line that 87%, you gave them a line that they wouldn't cross. But what lines have they crossed before that point? And again, that's the thing that we have to keep in mind. That's all I really have to say about it.